Yeah, okay, right.
I'll just whip down these quick.
Yeah.
It'll take a minute, to be fair. Right,
Jason.
2,
Jason.
3.
Yes.
Just a suggestion that maybe you've moved my item to the beginning and then you can concentrate on the mugger and everything after that.
Well, we was going to do that, but I'm going to have to ask for a Stuart, tell me, suspension of standing orders.
No,
you mean to move them around?
Yeah.
Well, technically, as they're on the agenda, it's down to the chairman's discretion anyway. As long as you announce that you're doing it, that you're moving them around, you're all right.
Okay. No problem.
There's one that's just tried to join, but it just won't. It's MJH or what that is. Just won't connect. It must be falling on there. And
right, okay. Right, okay. So, good evening, everybody. Can you please accept my apologies for the delay in this meeting taking place. I've had some internet issues for a number of weeks, and it's culminated into a complete disaster tonight for me. So the blame lies firmly and squarely at my feet, and BT will be hearing from me first thing. However, thanks for all attending, and we'll kick off and we'll jump straight in. So the agenda tonight there are only 4 items. It's an important meeting. 4 items. We'll go to the public speaking first. We'll take apologies for absence, and then we'll actually take number 4 first before we go on to number 3, just to get that out of the way. Then we can dedicate the correct amount of time to the situation that we need to talk about tonight. So, public speaking, Emma.
Yeah, somebody had said they wanted to speak.
Nick Hill, I believe. Good evening, Nick.
Good evening, Chair. Yeah, just very well. I'll keep it short and sweet due to obviously more important matters needing to be discussed. But I bring positive messages from the dog walking fraternity of Chapel-en-le-Frith, a subsection of which walk their dogs in the morning within the memorial park and sometimes in the evening. I've had a number of people that obviously have heard about the fact that the signage is going to be changed regarding keeping all dogs under control. So I would like to thank the Amenities Committee for that. But also a more general, and a number of people have come up to me and identified how great the park is looking at the moment. And I think great thanks should go to the park keepers and yourselves for a sterling performance in the park. I know there are other issues to talk about, but the positioning of some of the benches has meant that some of the older dog walkers have at least 2 or 3 places where they can sit down and take a bit of rest. And then very quickly, just like to thank Councillor Sizeland for his flying bin. I've been doing a lot of walking back and forth to Morrison's, and that has made a dramatic difference. They probably do need to raise the game slightly in emptying it, but when people are able to put their litter in it, they are doing, and that's brilliant. And that is all I have to say. Well done to the Guardians of the Parish. Long may it continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hill. Appreciated. Have we anybody else who's wishing to speak tonight? Okay, well, if that's the case, we'll move on to point number 2, which is apologies for absence, Emma. And we have a full house. Okay, so number 2 is done. On to number 4, as we mentioned earlier, is a motion from Councillor Sizeland. And the motion is, it's in order that the minor maintenance grant does not go to waste. The PC resolves to buy and deliver 2 loads of crushed slate with an approximate total value of £700 Coombs Reservoir by the 31st of March. Chris?
Right, okay. This is of the, we get £675 grant from Derbyshire County Council each year. Now, in previous years, we've just asked Derbyshire County Council to spend it or not, our behalf. And the problem is that they've then set it against stuff they're going to do anyway. The stuff they did last year would have come out of their flood relief money. So we're not, I didn't feel we'll get it, it was being used properly. So the whole idea is this year. And I identified this scheme. Anyone who's walked around Coombs Lake, it is a absolute quagmire, even in the summer. And I'm working with the Canal Trust, who own that land. And the whole idea is that the DCC say we can get the crushed slate there and pay for it, then by the end of this month, then we'll get the grant. Now, there was an issue in that we can only issue checks. The quarry in Wales will not accept checks, and it does want prepayment. I have just, actually during the previous meeting, I've just sent you, Emma, I've just forwarded you an email from the Canal Trust. They have agreed to buy it and invoice us so that they'll be able to prepay them. So it was all about reclaiming VAT and stuff like that. But what we will need to do as part of this resolution, we'll need to write the cheque out and send it to the Canal Trust during March. So as part of this resolution, can we sort of, given that all the 5 councillors are here, can we please sort of include that in the resolution if everybody's happy with that?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Does that tick all the boxes for us, Aaron?
Yeah, so the Canal Trust are gonna buy it and invoice us. So do we just send their invoice to Derbyshire County Council?
Yes, I'll email you in the mornings. I'll email you. I've already forwarded you the Canal Trust email.
Okay.
So basically what will happen is that they'll invoice us. We've got to apply for a credit account to the Canal Trust, which is under form. Canal Trust buy it, they invoice us, we pay the Canal Trust, and we reclaim off the Derbyshire County Council. It's the circle of life.
Does that tick all our boxes?
Yeah, I can put the invoice in for
We can.
31st of March.
Okay, right, okay. Okay, Chris, so having spoken to Emma, that appears to tick all the right boxes. So if we want to put that to the vote, councillors, all those in favour? That would be a unanimous decision. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and Stella. Okay, so that concludes number 4. Right, so the reason why we're all here tonight, really, number 3 is the mugger. It's a hugely sensitive subject at this moment in time. What I would like to remind people is that there are always 2 sides to the story. I'd like people to treat each other with respect, even when we don't necessarily agree. But I'll open the floor, and I'm going to ask Nigel to start the proceedings, please, Nigel.
Yeah, I think we have voted in January to increase the parish tax. It's a hefty increase, and the reason why we've done that is that we have been underfunding the play equipment for years, and it's started to show. Now, at the same time as this happening, we are in conflict with our neighbours. Personally, and not speaking in any way on behalf of the council, I think those neighbours have been roughly served by councillors in the past. And if we can improve play equipment at the same time as dealing with our neighbours' complaints, then it would be a double win for us.
Thank you, Nigel. Chris?
Right, I've put forward a proposal to this meeting where that we get quotes for various equipment, and suggestions how we stage it, how they were staging now. The whole idea is to put in pieces of the jigsaw, so we know how much each piece of equipment or possibility costs, and we won't go mad, get loads of quotes. We'll just get an indicative quote for each item at this stage, just to give us an idea, and then we've got the jigsaw. We can then sit down and see how best to put that jigsaw together, see what grants are available, and basically start moving things forward. So I just feel it's a good way forward anyway.
Thank you, Chris. Stuart?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do obviously have sympathy for the neighbours and the things that have gone on, but as the mugger did have planning permission, whether or not people feel that it was built in the right place or done, or what the history of it is, we are where we are at, and I do not think that we have the money to rebuild it or start all over again somewhere else, because it would be excessive amounts of money to spend. I feel that we have got to look at what can be done possibly with what's there, but I can't see the planning department changing their minds on what they said previously. And I know that there was the Friends of the Park that dealt with it all. That was why it was all put where it was, with the skateboard park and the children's play equipment and the solar light, which obviously we have now, with Chris's help, got repaired and working. That they said, you know, the police and everybody wanted it all there together. So I don't know what's to be gained by getting a lot of prices. I can understand some prices, because we did have some prices previously for the skateboard area, which was to be made of concrete rather than the wooden stuff, and that might be a way forward for the future for what the children and the younger people of today, because they don't just use skateboards on it, they use their BMX bikes and everything. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say at this moment in time on that one, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. I just really wanted to gauge everybody's opinion. So, Chris, I have noticed that you've got your hand up. However, I would just like Stella to have a moment. You're on mute, Stella.
Yeah, I know. My internet keeps playing up, so I didn't hear what Stuart was saying at the beginning. My opinion is that we need to replace this. We need to get prices for things. We do need to do the drainage, which is going to cost a lot of money. And I know people don't see that because they can't see the drainage. They think all the money should go on equipment, but the drainage is bad in the park. We do need to do that. We do need to replace the skate park for definite, because it's so old-fashioned and it's so out of date and it's so noisy.
Okay, thank you.
Plus, I'd love equipment as well, but like exercise equipment and that for adults in and things like that.
Okay, thank you, Stella. Chris? Mute.
Right. Basically, at the moment, we're sort of like, everything's anecdotal. This will be too expensive. Let's find out what things will cost. And I'm trying to make it nice and easy that we're just getting indicative costs initially, and then we can put that jigsaw together. We can look at the options, and the jigsaw, we can use bits of it and not other bits. It's all ideas. Let's get the jigsaw, and then when we're not then we know what we're talking about exactly. Thank you.
Nigel?
Yeah, I agree with Chris. You know, at the very start of this, there were some very large figures being bandied about, and at the time I just said, well, let's get some quotes and see what the real figures are, and that's the way to go. I suspect that this will be a multi-year project, that we're not going to be able to afford to do everything in 1 year. But now that we have an additional £60,000 a year, it seems realistic that we can make progress to having a large multi-year plan for how to improve play equipment at the same time as resolving conflicts which otherwise might end up as expensive legal problems for us.
Thank you, Nigel. Stuart?
Yeah, if I could just come back on that to you, Chairman. You and I did have a meeting with the clerk, and I know it's gone round to people on the council. We have got all the indicative prices of how much what we've got there did actually cost, because I believe you were quite surprised at how much the safer surfacing, how much the costs were when you saw what we'd spent in the past. And I cannot believe that anything is going to come any cheaper than it did last time. If anything, it's going to be dearer because of market forces and retail prices going up. We are sort of 11-12 years down the line from when it was done, all of this. And we have got the prices. I know Emma's got them as well, because it's in the file there at the office. So it just makes me think that we know what we spent then. It won't be any cheaper now. And if you have to actually take things down to put new things in, you're adding to the cost. That's all I was getting at. Now, I don't know whether, some of them obviously are old prices that we spent, and the Friends of the Park and people put money in, and there was donations, and they had dues to raise money for it, to do it. So I don't know, at some point whether or not those prices will come out, and whether we find out what the price would be nowadays in comparison. And I'm sure it'll be more, but that was where I was heading towards on that one as such.
Thank you, Stuart. Just before you speak, Nigel, can I just say that I think what's important is that we need to obtain some prices. We have got the original lottery bid that we were looking to improve the park with to use as a benchmark. However, as a council, I don't believe that we should be looking at completely ripping out existing equipment. More, my preferred option, as I've spoken about in the past, is a swapping of the Mugger and the play park, which would really reduce the costs, and it would tick the boxes in as much as that it would help with noise levels, with antisocial behaviour issues, etc. What this meeting tonight is to listen to everybody's opinion, and as a collective to go away and begin to accumulate information, so that when the chance to mediate comes around, we know where we are. Nigel?
Yes. I think one thing that I would like us to concentrate on when we're thinking about new equipment is that I believe that the existing skate ramps, when they were put in, were a false economy. That people were, at the time, some places were putting in sprayed concrete skate ramps, but we chose to have steel and plywood ramps. No one is recommending those ramps anymore. I think having them close to a residential area is always going to cause problems with noise. Perhaps at Dove Holes, where there is a significant distance from the play area to housing, they may work there, but they are never going to work in the Memorial Park. I also think, in all of these things, we should be consulting with people who've done it before. I know there are several specialist firms, for example, doing concrete skate ramps. I think we should be getting those on board to write a specification that in effect, we are not experts in doing this, and we should be looking to industry support to get a specification. For example, I know that there is a dip near the gates of the park which looks suitable for a poured concrete skate park, but perhaps if we got some firm in, they might say that will fill up with water within a few weeks. It's the kind of thing where we need experience to lead us.
Yeah, thank you, Nigel. Stuart, you still got your hand up. You are wishing to speak, or are you?
Yeah, I would, just before I put it down, I was just going to come back and say previous history to. I was just waiting for Nigel to say that piece about the dip in the park. Yes, as everybody knows, it fills with water. Yes, over the years we've made that dip not as much by putting soil and everything in the bottom to bring it up so it isn't such a disaster, because you've got a health and safety and a drowning issue there if it fills with water and everything. So it's not a very nice piece to actually put it into as such. And I was just going to say, with the drainage issues that Stella had mentioned about, we did have years back people, being United Utilities, wanting to put a big tank in the park as a retention tank under that lot, so we couldn't build on it. So there were reasons why that area wasn't used, and I'm sure some of them would come up again, and we would have to look at the drainage properly, like we have mentioned, and that's why we did the survey. So there are things that need putting together before we can actually say which way forward would be the best.
Nigel?
Yeah, I also think that the 5 of us, or even the 13 of us from a couple of months' time, need to keep in touch with those people who it directly affects. I can see David Howe sat here and he's reacting to what people are saying, but we need to be in conversation with him and with other people around the park, because otherwise we're going to steer the wrong course and end up with something which doesn't solve people's problems.
Yeah, I appreciate that sentiment, Nigel. And it's one that I would echo. It's important that we don't try and rush something through just in an attempt to appease. We've got to get it right. So the skateboard ramp you alluded to there is what was right in 1990 is not necessarily the right thing in 2020. Now, I've exaggerated the dates, of course, but I'm not even sure whether Duvalls would appreciate that skateboard ramp. I think if we're going to improve the skateboard facilities in the parish, I think we have to look at improving them in Duvalls also, or certainly not just giving them a cast stop. I think so. What I'd like to do now then is we've all one moment, Stuart. We've all given our opinion on how things need to move forward. Before I go to Chris, I will let Stuart have his say. We have got 2 plans that have been put in front of us, councillors. I'll let Chris take the floor, and I'll let him talk us through his thought process behind each plan. It's not something he's not thrown together at a moment's notice. He has put some thought into it, but I'd like him just to share with us and people watching where he's coming from. And then from there, we need to make some decisions as how we move forward. Stuart, I've seen you. Okay, mate.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, in amongst with this, because we have spoken about drainage and the skateboard. Obviously, this comes under the Mugger heading, and I know a lot of the people that are on this meeting tonight are wanting to know what's going to be happening with the Mugger as such. And I know you've alluded to about swapping things over and that, but we did consult everybody at the time when all these things were done, and the police were involved, and it was decided, that that's the safest, best with health and safety and with children in mind and everything. So I'd just like you to take that into account, you know, when you're thinking about things, because people were consulted all those years back. They weren't ignored. It's just that obviously times have changed.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Stuart. Stella?
I was just going to say times have changed and there's less things for people to do, so they tend to congregate in the park. So we've got to take all that into into consideration and think of the teenagers and everything that are going to the park, and they're all meeting on the skate park or in the mugger. So we need to think seriously if they've got nowhere to go. We're going to get the next lot of teenagers, so we need to set up things so they've got somewhere to go. Or if they're going on the park and the skate park, a concrete one would be half the noise that one is. So but I mean, we did discuss the concrete one last year in the full council meeting when everybody when we had all the other councillors and they didn't want it going ahead. So we've got the chance to make it all right now.
Okay, right. Well, so just before we move on to Chris's plans, I am aware that our clerk Sue has made a number of inquiries into the costs of said skate parks, and they do not come cheap. Really not very cheap at all. And whilst we haven't got any concrete prices, pardon the pun, we are heading well past £75,000 for skate parks of that ilk. So it's something that we can't just jump into at a moment's notice. I'd like to give the floor now to Chris just to talk us through these plans.
Thank you, Chair. Right, basically, there's two schemes which are quite similar, but it's probably more just a thing. But really, recent discussions, we've also talked about doing drainage first. So I just like to add that both schemes, Jason especially has identified the fact that the children say if there was something behind the normal football goals on the pitch, so they didn't have to keep going miles to collect the goal, they would use that a lot more, and especially during the summer nights when it's most used. So the first one on both lists is to install a rebound fence behind at least one of the field goals. And also, if any downtime ends up on the mugger, that helps alleviate that, that people have got an option. And that is, from what we can make out, that is not too dear. Okay, everything costs money, but that is hopefully an easy win to do come what may. Plan one says basically is to put a flowing concrete skateboard park on the undulating area of the park. And then number two, I've suggested about moving it, the present skate park, because we've got a new skateboard park, which is in, I think concrete would be a lot less than half the noise, to be honest. The one at Mark, I could hardly hear it at all. Consider moving the present skateboard park to Devolve. I put siting well away from the houses because the land there. I understand the points that have been made about that, and I don't want to insult anyone at Devolve. But and then move the children's playground to the present skate park site, which is a move thing. Okay, there'll be costs involved, but the equipment's already there. And move the mugger to the present play park. Again, there's costs involved, probably more on the surfacing side of it, but the equipment already exists. And then where the mugger is at the moment, we would install exercise fitness equipment, which I know Jason's mentioned from time to time, or these words like kalinetics, which seem very complicated to me. But just to take that, the main thing is, I don't think the rebound fence they were looking at, it's probably, we could easily do ourselves. Obviously, a new skate park, Floyd Concrete, would have to look at grants, but we do believe there are some locally available. And I think that would be a nice thing. And the rest is moving, stuff, and it's going to cost money, but to me, it's doable. Okay, plan B is again the rebound fence. Now, as a first, we improve the soundproofing of the present skate park, right? We dismantle the mugger and temporarily store. So instead of sort of doing stuff in sequence, this is a bit more fast track, but there's more double handling. So we dismantle the mugger and temporarily store and move the children's playground to the present mugger site. And then we reinstall the mugger on present playground. Basically, we're swapping the playground and the mugger. And then we look at doing the flowing concrete on the undulating area and the skate park and the fitness. So this the doors option. The idea is that is probably could be done quicker, because it all depends. If we could get a grant tomorrow for undulating concrete skate park, we could move. But if that's going to take a year or two, whatever, I don't know, then this is an alternative, but it's more double handling, if you know what I mean, and more downtime, because stuff will be dismantled and swapped around. And that's it, basically.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for those plans. Nigel?
Yes. One thing that I'd like to ask is that the other park in Chapel be considered as another possible site of the flowed concrete skate park. That would for my ideas, that would split up. You'd have half the kids going to one area and half the kids going to another area. And when I drive up Ashbourne Lane, I don't see it being particularly well used. I think it would make a better park out of it.
If I could just come back on that, Needham's or the Wreck, as some will know, is quite a popular little haunt for the people that live at that end of Chapel. It's probably not seen it at its busiest in the last 12 months. Corona obviously playing its part, and there are still some parents that have kept the children in as they should have. I think as this unfolds, there are going to be a number of ideas that are brought to the table, but I'm keen tonight to actually start the process so that our neighbours can actually see that we're treating their concerns seriously. I don't think that this is a parish council issue alone. I think this is going to require a multi-agency approach. I think that we're going to have to involve the police again, because it would appear that they've had an input initially on the installation of the mugger and the skateboard ramp. I think we're going to we'll take input from the neighbours, from people that use the park, and we'll bring our own ideas to it. But again, I think this is a developing project. But early doors, I think what's is apparent that in these plans that we're about to discuss, we are going to have to seek planning permission. That's the first port of call, I think. So an action from tonight would be that we need Emma and Sue to open lines of communication with the relevant parties over planning and see what we can actually achieve, or what doors are actually open. Anyone got anything to say about that? Stuart?
Just to add to from last time, and to add to what you said there, about discussions, I think it was Helen Paprahan who had a lot of it to deal with it. They did actually ask the children, I'll call them children, they're young adults will be now because they've grown up, but they did ask them what they wanted and where they wanted it. And I don't know whether it is worth somebody, because there was the Friends of the Park, talking to the people in the park, what they want there, as well as, you know, the kids going to school, because like you just said, the Needhams is very well used at the bottom for the people at the bottom of Chapel. This is very well used at the top of Chapel. We have had the problem in the past where I won't say it's two little cliques of people, but one lot didn't get on with the other lot. So they didn't want to, it's like the old Mods and Rockers type thing. They didn't want to both be in the same area at the same time. So whether splitting it up and giving them two places would be a viable proposition, I honestly don't know. But I think it would be something wise to actually start and by asking them what they actually want. Now we're in the 21st century, as you say, and not the year dot when it was done.
Well, in that respect, Stuart, I think perhaps, and this is a great point just brought to my attention by Emma, we could actually survey the local schools and ask them what they would expect from a 21st century memorial park.
Because I was
Sorry,
just going to say there's two other parts for you as well, whilst
Yeah.
I'm on. You said about the planning permission. I have actually spoken to the planning department, and I know Emma can be in contact with them, but because the play equipment is classed as fixed, yes, you would need a planning permission to move it and alter that because it's classed as fixed. And also, if you're doing concrete, because obviously that's not movable, that would need planning permission. But in with all this planning permission, as we do all know, there is money that's from these housing estates that have been built in Chapel that they class as 106 money, which is for providing play equipment. Now, I don't know how far all of that goes, and we'd have to be speaking once again to the planning department and the borough council to find out how it can be spent, because I don't know, it could be ring fence that it has to be spent in the main park. It may be able to be spent at Needhams, or it may be able to be spent at Dove, but it's something that we would need to check up. So I think as you're talking about actions, that those are some of the things that we need to be finding out the answers to before we can go any further down the line as such.
Right. Okay. So I think we're unanimous. The first thing that we need to do after tonight is to contact a planning department and actually work out what we can and can't do. Nigel?
I think it's not true that we can't do two things at the same time. I think we can both contact the planning department and also get some indicative quotes at the same time, so that should they both come back together and one agrees with the other, we can move quicker.
Well, if you'd have given me a couple of minutes, Nigel, that was my second point. Chris?
I agree 100% with Nigel. We need to get on with getting the indicative prices. All we're talking about, I think at the worst, is we have to tweak some things slightly for the planning department, but please, we got the indicative price. Let's get,
Absolutely, but again, I'll just revert to my last answer. If you'd have given me a minute, well, that's where we were going. Stella?
You're muted.
Yeah, I know. Going back to the drains, isn't that the first thing we really need to do before we do anything? I know I spoke to Phil and he says he's hoping they're coming back within the next 2 weeks, because I was there measuring the gates and that today. But yeah, so we need to get that sorted and get a cost for that, don't we? And get all the drains done.
Absolutely, yeah. Tonight's about an action plan. So,
yeah,
what whilst I mentioned drains initially, we need I'd like to see the planning department approached. I'd like to see quotes obtained for different surfaces in different areas. I'd like to see surveys done in local schools. Let's get the children involved. And then, of course, is the mediation. I think the drains also. I think we can have 4 or 5 different situations all burning away comfortably.
Yeah,
I don't think that's against us.
I agree. Yeah.
So really, is there anything else that we need to discuss tonight other than that is our intended plan of action? Nigel?
Do you need any money deciding tonight, or is it just let's go away and just investigate?
Well, I think tonight is the start of this procedure, isn't it? We've got to come together. We acknowledge that we have an issue currently. We as a council, we're open. We're listening to what's been said to us, and with a multi-agency approach, we'll try and bring something back. I don't think this is going to happen overnight. These prices are not going to be obtained within 2 or 3 working days. We're going to have to go to the right people. This information is not going to happen immediately, but we'd like to come back to the public quickly. So tonight, develop a plan of action. Let's get some points that Emma can work on immediately with Sue, and then we'll come back, and then we'll start discussing figures from at the next meeting. Stuart.
Just one other one to say, because you touched on it right on the last one there when you're saying about mediation with the neighbours. I know this is not what everybody's going to want to hear, but people are going to be thinking about it as such because of how it was put into the budget about solicitors' costs. We have got the elephant in the room of dealing with the case that has been put against us about this lot that's going on, and yeah, it needs to be thought about how it's dealt with.
Just before we move off anywhere, the parish clerk's got their arm up.
Can I ask something?
Of course you can. Yeah, sorry, Sue.
Sorry, can I just clarify where in Dove Holes we would be looking to put the skate park? Then we can, if we're getting quotes, we know
where. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
where's it going?
Chris?
When we did the meeting there, we sort of got the impression that, okay, you go in to the little car parking area where the over 60 hall is, and then you've got sort of the play park on your right hand side, but we own a stretch of land going towards the mound and the trees, so it'd be somewhere in that stretch of land that I envisaged, but I just turn out that we sort of there's some confusion there.
We own the football field.
All right, there's a
so I guess what you're saying, Sue, really then is we'd have to actually have a look at the land that we actually own in Dove Holes around the park.
Yeah, because I don't think we own the bit where the mound is. We own the football field. The only issue maybe with that is you're probably aware that Sport England are a consultee now in all planning applications for this sort of thing. And if you're going to remove a green space, i.e. a football field, that could be a consideration we perhaps need to think about. So we need to, I suppose that's the first thing, we need to know where in Dove Holes we'd want to put it. And what do you want, scheme A or scheme B, or do you want us to get prices for both?
Or do you want us just to literally just get?
Well, I think early doors, Sue, I would like you to, I've just been discussing with Emma a few things, so involve the planning applications. We'd like a couple of prices for the surfaces that we have currently in the park on the off chance that the swapping of each amenity was available. What else have we got, Emma?
Do you want just prices for like a concrete skate park? How much the services for each area?
Yeah.
Drainage.
Yeah. We need to work on a plan for the drainage, Sue.
And then we could start a survey.
Sorry, Nigel.
The rebound nets.
And the rebound nets, yeah, we've got those, yeah. So, Chris?
So it'd probably be useful if we had a plan of the Devols land we own, and then just to sort of, and then we can sort of put a two-pen in about it where.
It's the field that's got 2 goalposts in next to the play area.
Yes.
There's a wall around it.
Do we own some land past the actual play park?
No.
What that's the only land we own. We only own the play park and nothing further.
We don't own the play park, no.
We don't own the play park.
No.
Who owns the play park? Because maybe whoever owns it might allow we do the same deal for. Also, I'm confused there.
Sue?
Yeah.
Would it be worth beneficial dropping a mail to Doveholes Community Association?
Yeah.
I think they're in the process of looking to raise funds for something similar, and we wouldn't want to be treading on their toes as such. Again, I mentioned this multi-party approach, and I think input from those would also be quite helpful.
Yeah.
Rather than us just deciding that we're going to give them something, they might have ideas on what they'd like. And
certainly in the Section 106 agreement for the houses that are currently being built in Doveholes, it does specifically say there is an amount of money for a skate park for Doveholes in that, which off the top of my head is about 24,000, but don't quote me. So, they may be thinking and I know they've got a local group as well, haven't they, raising money?
They have.
I'm guessing they're going to be looking for something new. But
I was going to say that what Sue's just said there for you, Jason, because having family in Dove, that she's right with what she said.
Okay, Nigel.
Yeah, it could be with Doveholes, but the simplest way to deal with this, and the way that would allow people in Doveholes to have the maximum input, is simply grant funding the community association, match funding perhaps what they're getting from section 106, or match funding the amount that they raise in donations. It would mean that we could concentrate on the areas that we know best, which at the moment we do not know Doveholes well.
So is that something we can do?
Yeah. I'm guessing probably it's, opening a dialogue with the Doveholes Community Association, really.
Smashing. So again, that will be an action from tonight then. Okay, right. So have you anything else that you could add, Sue?
No, I don't think so. I just wanted to be clear what we were actually,
Yeah, no. It's a very valid point. Okay, councillors, is there anything else that you'd like to share tonight? No.
So can I just come back to what Stuart was saying about the worries concerning legal fees? I mean, the parish council meeting a couple of weeks ago, it was sort of raised by a couple of us that we would like to talk about this. We have had some indicative costs from lawyers about how much the mediation process would cost with our neighbours, and I don't think it's divulging, ruining any confidences to say that we're likely to spend less than 10,000, and I would hope to be very much less than 10,000 in legal fees. I think most councillors would agree with those sentiments. It will be not of the order of £60,000, which I've seen on Facebook recently.
Thank you, Nigel. Stuart?
Yeah, well, I think that's why I did mention it. It is the elephant in the room. It's what everybody's been talking about. Facebook does tend to get things out of context and everything. Yes, we have had figures come in. Yes, it has been spoken about, and if it does go to mediation and it doesn't go to a court case, obviously it's going to be nowhere near that price. but you still have to bear in mind if the neighbours aren't happy with what we come up with, what happens? It is the elephant in the room that we all have to deal with. But once again, we are looking here at all of Chapel. We're looking at the Needham Wreck and Dove. So you're looking at sort of best part of 9,000 people for 2 or 3 people that live close by. So, you know, you're bound to take some flack over that on the social media and everywhere. But we've got to look at it pragmatically with costs and everything.
Yeah, thank you, Stu. I think it's important that we don't. What we're looking to drive the Memorial Park and the other parks in the parish forward. Try not to look back. See this as an opportunity to actually improve the facilities. And in terms of expenditure, as close to zero on legal fees for me would be my gold medal position. Yeah. I really don't want to waste anybody's money on lawyers. Feeding a lawyer's bank account is certainly not at the top of my priority list. I really want us to find an amicable solution for everybody in the parish, councillors, the town hall, parishioners. You know, we've got to come together and seize this opportunity to move the park forward. Right. So we have now got a list of actions that Emma and Sue can carry on with. Is there anything else anybody would else like to add tonight? Okay, so I guess the final thing we do then before we wrap this up tonight is do we continue with the mugger scenario as a single item meeting, which I believe would benefit everybody, or would you like to incorporate it into the amenities? If we are to remain as a single item, then we have to get the buy-in from Emma and Sue to make that happen. Stella?
And I think the Memorial Park should be something, and not just the mugger, because we've gone about the Memorial, the whole of the park. I think parks should be one different to the amenities, because you've got everything in the amenities, and we seem to spend out, rush things through. Whereas if you can have one meeting just for the park, mugger and park, then you'll get more done, I think, like tonight. Okay, Nigel?
Yeah, I think whatever will get the maximum number of decisions made before May the 6th, I think this was dumped in our laps in October, November, and we'll be doing a huge favour to the 8 future councillors if we can do as much as possible to start clearing it up.
Chris?
Yeah, I agree with what's gone before, but also for that purpose, let's agree, a provisional date now for the next parks meeting.
Yeah, okay, right, okay. So, Sue, Emma, 2 main players. When are you available, please?
I don't mind taking the minutes of a meeting if you want to do it in the evening.
Should we do it planning again?
You can do it after
the planning.
That doesn't bother me.
Are you sure? Okay, all right, okay. Well, so we'll reconvene this one at the next planning meeting. Following on from the next planning meeting.
The next one is, what day is it today?
13th.
Yeah, 13th. Yeah.
The 13th of April. 13th of April, everybody, and hopefully at that point. Sorry,
I'm away I'm going away that night, but I'll have Wi-Fi and be on my phone. That's the only difference. I'll do it while I'm on holiday.
Yeah. Do you want, like Stella said, do you want it to be play areas, basically, not just?
Yeah, I think we'll continue on this theme for that particular one.
Okay.
So we'll just get all the information that we've discussed tonight ready for that one.
Yeah.
And then as we move forward, we'll be able to incorporate other parts into it. Right, okay, Stella.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well, by then I might have some prices of these other things I'm checking for the park, the gates and everything.
Yeah, smashing. Right, okay. So really, I'd like to thank you. I think that probably brings us to the end of the meeting, unless you've got anything else, Sue?
No, thank you.
Okay, smashing. Okay, right. So that probably brings us to the end of tonight's meeting. It's a process it's going to take some time. We've started it. Hopefully, in a month's time, we'll be able to discuss expenditure, possible revenue sources, as Sue's alluded to, in some S106 funds. We've obviously got the increase in the precept. Let's look forward to a brighter future. So thank you very much for all attending. Apologies for the planning fiasco on my behalf and the meeting starting late out of my hands. But thanks for listening, and I'll see you all very soon. Thank you.
See you later. Thank you, Jason. A very good meeting.
Thank you.